See, told you it wasn't that long. Short break overall, and while Seth does enjoy some of his time eating his pizza, Jaws, you and I, we're going to be taking over and going on to our next series of the day. It's going to be the Hangzhou Spark versus the Philadelphia Fusion.
Yeah, let's hope one of them doesn't walk as quickly away as Seth did when he had to go get his food. We'll have to wait and see, of course. Hopefully it's not another 3-0. Of course, we saw Philly a couple of times last week, and they're actually undefeated currently. Only week one, let's be real. It doesn't mean too much just yet, but it's a nice little taster test, what we got in the APAC region so far. The Spark, on the other hand, not played just yet. And I'm extremely excited to see the Spark, because their roster seems very well suited for this current meta. There's a lot of flexibility in people like Architect. Guangzhou as well is like perfect for double bubble. And in the APAC region, and in like Korean Overwatch in general, like a lot of the compositions that the teams come up with, and just over the history of Overwatch as well, it's very aggressive, dive orientated. Chinese Overwatch, very famous for being just absolutely crazy aggressive, like super aggro. So I'm very excited to see how they do kind of big up their roster this year, because they've got a lot of players, and I'm really hoping we see some Architect. The guy's a flex god, and Guangzhou, of course, too, like I mentioned before. There's no way they're not going to be paying him, especially in these double bubble comps. I'm excited. I bet you're excited too. Spark, maybe a little bit biased there, not gonna lie.
You touch up on Spark, and I'm looking over at the Fusion side of things. Carpe. We take a look at the way that Carpe, the 2020 Role Star player, has performed so far, nearing almost 10k damage. And, you take a look at the way that Carpe has been playing overall for the season, that's pretty impressive. I mean, it's only been one weekend. Going into the second weekend, the Fusion, you basically put a cherry on top to it, Jaws. They're looking to keep up some of that momentum going into the second weekend.
Yeah, speaking about 10k damage, 9th ranking, of course. I'm like pointing over to the side there. Of course, you can't see. That's my monitor over there that I'm pointing to. But he's, nearing that 10k damage, which will definitely boost his rankings up. But 10k kills in the Overwatch League as well. He's sharply approaching, which he could get today, Vicky. His 10,000th kill in the on the Overwatch stage. Let's have a look at the lineups, though. We have the Philadelphia Fusion. As you can imagine, they're going to roll out the same kind of thing. Of course, a few players, unfortunately, not with them currently, Astro being one of them. So we are seeing Toby and Hotba looking rather the same in this one, just silhouettes. But we have Alarm, Mano, of course, Rascal, and Carpe to round out the DPS. And they have been looking very good. Of course, like I said before, they are currently 2-0 in the standings currently, and beating the Seoul Dynasty as well, which is no easy feat, mind you.
Yeah. Now, taking a look at the Spark and having to see this team face off against the Fusion, what are you anticipating here? Looking at the Spark, looking at what we're going to have from the Fusion and their performance within last weekend, Jaws, what are you anticipating here to look at the way that Spark is going to play this into Fusion after being able to at least download some of that knowledge that they could have onto the Fusion when they performed?
Oh, I mean, double bubble all the way, where calls for it. Of course, a lot of the maps recently have been what you prefer in terms of composition, but it does rely on the maps kind of working in your favor as well. We are going over to Control Center being the first one of Lijiang Tower, so not as good for the Monkey and the Zarya, but we are seeing, of course, Architect coming out, and your boy, Somin Su as well, of course, ex-Vancouver Titans, and went on a little bit of a hiatus, it seems. I was surprised to not see him last year, but I'm glad he is back. Right-click McCree, and I'm a fan of Somin Su for multiple reasons, not just because he was on the Vancouver Titans, but because he has been integrated in this team with such just standout performers. Guangzhou and Bernard running the double shield TP out. Like I said, not too much monkey business here, as it is very small corridors with a lot of spammable areas, so it's just going to be Somin Su on the silly Symmetra hero, and Architect just spamming from the back, and the amount of damage that you can take, especially from Architect and Somin Su hitting these big right clicks, is pretty scary. But Rascal's going to be able to mitigate a lot of that with the walls at least, as they do rotate very quickly around the Spark and do manage to at least jump on the point first and hopefully get the cap if they're lucky.
Oh, that wall right there isolating Guangzhou, and now finding IDK. That's two members down for the Spark, and now just being able to take full control over this point here first. That's
nice
a good statement to make, and yeah, just managing to close things out here. Toby getting that booth over to Architect, and now managing to hold on to that high ground.
Yeah, the Booth God is back as well, of course. Toby now on the Fusion. And I'm excited to see the Lucio matchups. In these kind of compositions, you aren't going to go for something absolutely crazy on the Lucio, of course, but Toby and IDK, some of the best Lucio players we have in the world. We have another one as well that's not actually arrived in Korea yet, and that is Funny Astro. So they got our Lucio players to bear. MCD is kind of nearing this window, but walls are going to get put up first before the engagements happen, as the Philadelphia Fusion do end up backing to the point, as now the Spark should be able to re-enter. They have changed over to the May, so they're going to be miles behind in terms of ult charge.
Yeah, although they're trying to prioritize that positioning. That wall coming in, the Shatter actually getting pulled out from Mono. He does get saved by the Immortality Field, but they immediately delete that, as well as deleting Mono. How about now? Utilizing that Gravitic Flux to stop their approach, and does find Gushue at the same time. That actually forces Spark to rotate over to the side right here, but they're still able to find some of those picks, while Mono is going to be able to get right back onto the point before Gushue meets up with the rest of the Spark.
Yeah, unreal Flux there, managing to take out the Rhine, and now Rascal's just sitting on the Blizzard. You can basically just wait for them to funnel in. This is last fight territory, basically. Architect's going to use that tire as it comes around through server room. It has to land onto one of these supports, but they still probably have Immortality Field. Hopper couldn't escape.
Hopper unfortunately becomes the victim of that Riptire. Copper now trying to find that mark. The pressure going onto Bernard. The sound barrier coming in for IDK. He's frozen in his tracks, but at the same time, Gushue still has that Shatter to at least suppress the Fusion back. The wall is going to be able to isolate Mono. He's going to go down. Gushue is not going to try to overextend. Instead, hold on to the Shatter end, as well as makes their way over to control this point for the first time of the round.
Oh yeah, not bad at all. Carpe, what are you doing? What are you doing there, buddy? Not looking for a flashbang, are you? Right in the back line? No, he is just kind of chilling in server room. He wants to cash MCD, ideally. That would be the perfect pick, of course, but either of the DPS as well will be as good. There's the right click, the right click is back. Oh, and it wasn't even So Min-soo. MCD is dead. Even if Carpe dies here, it doesn't really matter because you lost your main heals, of course. Gushue is going super low.
Oh, no, 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 and now that's going to allow the rest of Fusion to make their way right back over here. The Spark, they're losing members, and they're losing them fast after losing MCD to Carpe. The Shatter now coming
Someone
alive.
needs to touch.
Someone needs to get on the point to at least contest it here. Overtime now ticking away. Currently have the Fusion making their way right back over to stop the Spark. Now they're stuck over to this Gravitic Flux, and the Animatrix coming alive, going to be able to control some of that space, but it doesn't even matter here, Jaws. The Spark, they're falling through, and the Fusion, they're moving right back in to live rent-free in Spark's heads.
Oh boy, that right flash fan the hammer, a classic. Carpe just managing to find the flank. I'm sitting there thinking, like, maybe he goes for this. It feels way too aggressive, right? I mean, they're gonna sniff this out. They know there's not a McCree shooting their shields. Surely? They clearly, obviously, well, maybe they were thinking about it, but just had no idea where he was. And as soon as you take down the Batiste, hey, guess what? No lamp. There's no main heals. They can't even use the window either. I mean, after that happens, the fight is good as done. So, like, we got a brief pause, unfortunately, as Bernard hit the pause. So we should get back into the game momentarily, but we are now heading into Night Market. Again, another TP-orientated map. You want to just rush out with the speed, hit the TP, and then jumping straight onto the point, putting up the walls. And normally whoever actually just lands on the point first normally does end up finding the cap and the kills because people are just kind of funneling on top of you. Easier to do damage, of course. Should be about a minute this pause, though, Vicky, so we should get back into the action in a sec.
Yeah, players just getting set up real quick while they do wait out on that pause. And looking at the way that the Fusion played that last round, it's interesting to see how they're going to approach this going forward. I mean, you mentioned the TP going in. Whoever gets set up on that point is going to have not only the advantage, but also a lot of that pressure going forward. Fusion already building up some of that momentum in that first round, but can they carry that over here with the Spark? They try to slowly make their way over to that point in that first round, but unfortunately, they were stopped short. Thanks to Carpe also taking taking care of those main heals coming forward from the Spark. I mean, that's what I got my eyes on currently going forward, Jaws. Looking at Carpe and the way that he's been performing, I know we touched up a little bit on that 10,000 damage that he's rearing around, but overall, the way that the Spark has been putting on a lot of that pressure to contest the Fusion, it's going to be interesting to see if they could at least try to shove Fusion off of that point, and we could see a little bit more of that close quarter fight that they want to bring in.
Yeah, we can get that 10,000 kills like in this series, mind you. We will keep you updated if that does end up ticking over, which is a monumental feat, by the way, getting a 10,000 kills in Overwatch League. Just ridiculous, but who better than Carpe at the end of the day? The dude's an absolute monster, and it does favor Fusion really well, too. If you look at kind of the supports and then the DPS, like Carpe just an absolute beast on the hit scan, but I love looking at the support player myself, and I'm sure a lot of people can attest to it. Toby, Boot God, perfect Lucio meta for him. And then Alarm, who can seemingly play everything. We saw him a little bit last year when Funny Astro had to jump into this Brigitte role. We saw Alarm then get kind of traded in, and they were kind of patching the holes that they had in their support line with Alarm more often than not. Chips, I remember seeing on Twitter saying he's the best player to ever exist. So, you know, there's that. You got the Chips a seal of approval. So what more can you really want? Alarm is just such a naturally talented support player that Philadelphia Fusion, they shouldn't have a problem in their backline whatsoever this season. I'm excited to see Funny Astro jump back in as well when all the visa and that kind of stuff and all those problems end up getting sorted out. But Fusion, they're in for a big season in the APAC region. Of course, moving over from North America, but they haven't faced Chengdu Hunters yet either, and I'm pretty excited for that too. The APAC region just looks stacked this year.
Yeah, it's honestly, I take a look at the APAC region, and that's what makes me really excited, especially with the performance that already the Hunters has set up as a precedence now, looking at the Fusion and the way that they performed last weekend. It's going to be quite chaotic overall. I know we were talking about the Hunters just starting up a bunch of violence for the last 2 years now and going over to the 2021 season here, Jaws, looking at the Fusion versus the Spark. That first round, it's in the books here for the Spark, and we're going to be able to start off of this pause very shortly. Now, you know, you touched up about the backlines of the Fusion. I'm taking a look at these tanks between Mono and Hotba. Now, being able to integrate a lot of that synergy that they're building in, they're enabling a lot of Carpe and Rascal to actually get away with a lot of that pressure that we had seen within that first round from Carpe, tacking on a lot of that pressure onto the backlines of the Spark.
Yeah, and this, speaking about backlines from the Spark there, Carpe doing those things too, the flash fan, the hammer to kill MCD. This is a rookie support as well, MCD, coming from Element Mystic, one of the teams in Korean contenders. He had a few different stints on a few teams before them, but Element Mystic, perfect feeder team from the Korean region. We've seen tons of players move their way in, and the Dallas Fuel looking a lot like Element Mystic currently, but you can see how much talent comes from that team in the region as a whole, of course, as well. And maybe that is a little bit of it doesn't look like we are going back into this game rather shortly, guys. IDK is ready. Looks like Mano is ready as well, so we should be jumping in just a second. Do not go anywhere. But like I was saying, maybe that's just a little bit of inexperience there from the backline from the Spark, like not being able to kind of track where Carpe is. Of course, incredibly hard to when he's kind of sneaking around the map, but still, point still stands. You are going up against a veteran, just superstar-studded backline in Alarm and Toby, and this is a rough entrance for MCD.
Yeah, and with that pause, we're finally getting started, going forward in the second round, and ready with that teleport. You can just see wasting no time. I love that wall, though, coming in from Architect, and as well as being able to control a lot of this space here, actually tacking on so much of that pressure onto the Fusion. They are going to be able to give that respect, and I love the way that Fusion actually quickly disengaged right there. They recognize the situation, especially after Hoppa now has been demeched now forward.
Well,
though they do take care of Hoppa. Yeah, immediately as I was pointing that out there, they do manage to take care of Hoppa. Great walls coming forward, though, between Architect and Rascal. It's an ice cream sandwich here for Gouchwei, but he does manage to get out of there alive. He does manage to retaliate, and I like the way currently that Fusion is playing this really patiently. They are going to give that over to the Spark first, while they are going to be able to build into some of those ultimates as well.
It's super hard now to actually attack this point. I mean, you're attacking into sim turrets, right? I mentioned at the very start of the map, whoever actually lands on the point first, more often than not, is going to win. You saw at the very start, boom, Spark instantly came down. They're trying to TP flank Shadow. In fact, Mono just landed, but he's in trouble.
he has the immortality field, but he took on so much of that damage pressure coming forward from Su. You're talking about the fact that whoever gets onto this point is going to be able to try to take it. Well, I mean, Jaws, this is a clear example of that, and the amount of pressure and damage output that we just saw coming in from the Spark, which will be able to come right back in with the rest of the Spark, while Fusion, they have to retaliate and get back together in the spawn while they go back to the drawing board to figure out what to do differently.
Yeah, now they can come back in. Somehow, again, Toby the Boot God managed to find Guangzhou, but now the window's going to open up. The TP forward, potentially getting the turn to the back line, but the wall is going to prove such a difficult obstacle to go behind.
And not only the wave wall, but also that photon barrier coming alive. The Shatter is online for Guangzhou, just waiting for that opportunity for the rest of Fusion to go in, but the fact that they've lost Toby here just leaves alarm for that sustainability. The Blizzard coming in is going to stop Guangzhou, but the sound barrier is going to help them stay alive. IDK, he's taking a lot of that damage, and the Spark, Jaws, they're losing members, and they're losing them fast. The Fusion, now they're making their way right back over to the point. They clean things up here, and they do so successfully. Now it's a matter of taking care of that TP and waiting out for the rest of Spark, and they used a lot of their economy overall, besides Bernard building into that drum, but now you currently have them making their way back over from the spawn.
That was an unbelievable play there from Rascal. The entirety of his team were backing off because they were low HP, and that was the go signal, the bat signal, if you will, if you're the Spark, and to just run into them, just clean them up. But Rascal hid in the corner, was able to get the Blizzard out, forcing the beat, and then instantly the Fusion were able to capitalize. They're going to come back in with a shooty shotgun man in the Reaper, as they are going to be running into a Gravitic Flux from Hopper. There it does, it's coming out. It is straight on top of the entirety of the Spark lineup almost.
It's a fun Friday out here. You can say that again, and being able to find Bernard off to the side, they are trading nonetheless. Hoppa taking so much of that damage, but the follow-up coming alive from Rascal. He pinpointed how his positioning has been on point, especially with that Blizzard to help out the rest of Fusion to take in that point finally. And now, despite them actually losing that point first here, the control point and momentum is starting to build into Philadelphia Fusion's favor.
83% to 56. Rascal has Blizzard. I'm looking at Architect. He's 75% of the way there. Guangzhou's got a Shatter coming online too. It's going to be, again, very, very hard to kind of attack this point against the Sim and the May, the silly DPS. Rascal playing quite far upwards, but it shouldn't matter all too much. This is going to be fun to fight territory because this Blizzard is going to slow down this whole fight, and it's really up to IDK too to build this beat quicker, and it looks like, in fact, Spark are just trying to take enough damage to actually help build that beat quick enough. MCD's old charge not building, but not actually use the Blizzard.
Oh, take that for a look right now, and the Shatter coming in. Guangzhou, he gets stuck here, and now being able to clean up the point, it's going to be a wipe out here for the Fusion, with Spark now making their way over to this point, turn it in their favor. Now it's up to the Fusion to try to claim this and at least try to contest at the same time.
That was unbelievable. Wow. The one thing that the Fusion needed was the Blizzard, and Bernard just eats it up. And now they have a free beat, Vicky. Someone's going to have to touch, and no one does. Okay, was kind of expecting the Lucio to touch there, so I wasn't going to hand it over too quick, you know. Toby is he's killed at the back. So yeah, he was just seconds too late there, unfortunately. The Spark do manage to tie up this control. We're going all the way over to Night Gardens now. And that, yeah, super unfortunate for the Fusion. I mean, Rascal just wasn't really expecting Bernard to hold on to the eats. Now we have the POV, the map winning moment. Oh, right in the corner. He spotted it coming a mile away.
So interesting to see, too, how he was actually able to react so well. Knew that he was hanging out in that corner. And
he has quite a big cast time, May, as well, mind you. The snowball has to like physically be thrown out, drop on the floor, and then come up to activate the Blizzard. The cast time in general is fairly slow. That's why you'll see a lot of Mays throw it into the ground to accelerate cast time, or even throw it on top of their May, like in between the May wall blocks as well, to try and get that cast time as quick as possible.
Yeah, you have that sound cue too to just let everybody else know what's going on, where you're coming from, and already with this position advantage coming forward from the Fusion, they are going to be able to make their way over to the point first, and the Spark taking a rather slower approach here, going over to the side into that weight room so that way they could tack on some pressure and waiting it out. So you see Architect on the far end now, getting some of that pocket heals from IDK, as well as the fact that he could tack on a lot of that pressure, utilizing these windows now so that way they do see him as a threat. Rascal, of course, is on that base, so he can't really do much unless he's in that close quarter situation on the point.
Yeah, Guangzhou is going to get frozen up on the sides. Easy speed down for Toby. And this is kind of the same thing we saw in the Hunters versus MYXL game, right? One team is playing this rush style, one team is playing this Farah style, and just trying to poke people out and build up this EMP. But are you as good as the Hunters at doing that? We'll have to wait and find out. Spark don't currently control the point. They haven't made a dent in it. And Philadelphia Fusion, they're already up to 40%. Alarm's got the window. They can just back off with ease and just bait in a nice triple anti, though. But will it result in anything? Maybe it will. Alarm gets done.
Oh, yeah. Taking notes right here from the Hunters. You made note of it, and Architect does find Alarm after getting antied right there over to the side. That's Toby going down, too. That's both supports out of the fight for Fusion. These turrets, though, being a threat, they are going to be able to clean it up with the rest of the Spark making their way over to the point. It's a matter of cleaning up Romano, though. He is trying to delay the inevitable with the rest of Fusion trying to contest. Now, Spark, they're cleaning things up, and they are able to try to take this point. The Photon Barrier, they're not wasting any time here, Jaws. The EMP now coming alive and finding two. Rascal now is out of that fight. He actually had Blizzard as well that he could have been able to at least hold on to the point, but 80% now, Jaws with the Spark finally turning the tides in their favor.
Oh, I mean, that is super nice if you're the Fusion. You do get to hold on to Blizzard. Yeah, maybe he could have used it, but the Photon Barrier being used to stop at least the Spark insta-killing the rest of the team, because Architect has to play so much more careful, doesn't want to injure himself with the rockets, of course, and Carpe was going to be able to switch, well, was going to switch anyway from the Symmetra, so 80% not bad. Blizzard's going to be fairly tough to use. He wants to either get the tanks or MCD ideally, but he's going to be playing off in a different time zone at this point. There's no way he's going to be near that Blizzard. However, the gauge does come in.
And that's hacked too onto Carpe. He actually gets away despite getting hacked over to the side. And that Mayhem coming alive. The Rocket Barrage coming in and finding two. Despite that Blizzard falling down and actually finding some of the members from Spark over to the side. Controls some space. Mono gets put to sleep. He has that Shatter, but losing both of that DPS. Rascal's quickly swapping over to the Tracer so that way they can at least get back into the fight rather quickly. Now the Shatter to follow in. The Coalescence to match up with that, but Alarm's put to sleep. That Coalescence gets shut down, and so does Toby. And the Spark now, they're losing members and they're losing them fast with the rest of Fusion. Now being able to try to take this point without the Spark, being able to find themselves back into the advantage seat.
Yeah, there's no way you're going to be able to get in the back now. That EMP was absolutely massive, but it didn't really result in all much. Like, they were surviving by the skin of their teeth, and Alarm was able to heal them up. And healing them up from basically 1 HP, which looked like Mano and Hotbar are on, he gained himself a Coalescence, and that just turned the tides of the war. 92% now. Guangzhou should be able to touch. He's going to be the one to get there first. Sominsu's with the EMP. He's ready to strike.
Getting ready, he's getting set up into position. They don't see him. He's right behind both the tanks right now.
He's big.
He does utilizes the EMP. They find Mono from it, and the anti to follow up right afterwards. Alarm is surprisingly alive. The Deadeye does find Architect at the same time, so they do trade here. At the same time, Mono had Shatter, and they do find him at the side right here. Toby's gone from this fight, and the res onto Architect now sets up Spark on the advantage in terms of numbers. They do reclaim this point, but for how long here, Jaws? The Pulse doesn't find a sticky. He's trying to find his way over to pressuring on IDK. But yeah, IDK still managed to get away on time. The Rocket Barrage coming alive. Architect getting in that pocket from IDK, knowing that Rascal wanted to make sure that, you know, you can make sure that IDK isn't as much of a threat onto managing to help out Architect. It's unfortunately to no avail right now, Jaws, and they're at nearly 99% to match that with the Fusion.
Yeah, they need to get back in ASAP once again. It's going to be Rascal Toby with the touch. Manu switching over Ball to try and do so as well. Coalescence is going to be online also, but they're not going to be able to do it. What? How did they not touch?
What?
Excuse me? Excuse me? Give me a 0.25 on that, please. That looked like the Diva was on it. There is a small lip, I believe, actually on that point where even if you're on top of the window, you don't actually get the point touch. You have to be like almost physically on the ground. Oh, that was disastrous. Oh boy. Oh man, that was crazy for the Spark to take that one. It felt so good for the Fusion, especially their comp. They were able to just kind of stop Architect doing a lot without Architect receiving that nano, of course. Not as good as Jinmu, it feels like, but the Spark executing that comp fairly well. Sominsu finding a lot of value with the EMP. It was down to the supports of Philadelphia Fusion trying to keep everybody up and alive and well, but there's only so much you can do on the Moira, especially in those last few moments, right? You got a fair bit of burst healing if you throw out the orb as well, but man, getting hacked or just using the fade you're going to die pretty quickly. Toby even taking out MCD. It was just chaos. These comms are chaos comms, especially when you're playing Brawl into this Pharah with the Sombra. There's not really... It feels like very hard to spectate to. Which person do you want to kind of look at? There's small battles happening all across the map. Tough job for the May too, with the Blizzard targeting. You want to throw it on point and then the ball rolls into it. I don't know. It was chaos at the very end. It looked like Philly were going to touch, but they didn't. Oh, that is so sad, man. They're probably kicking themselves right now.
I know, and that's that mentality that they're going to be carrying over to the next map. Overall, though, they put up a really good fight. 99-99, so close here, Jaws. Although the Spark, they take it for right under the Fusion. At the end of this short break, though, don't go anywhere because we're going to be going on to a map number 2.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest and fastest 5G network. Set your sights on the competition with T-Mobile. The Overwatch League is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League, and by IBM, the official cloud and AI partner of the Overwatch League.
Hisu and Sominsu, yeah. Soup and shoe.
Soup and shoe?
No.
Easy win for Carpe. Oh my gosh! He got him down! Marco! GQO making mincemeat of the opposition. This was what we were promised when this guy was joining the league. Perfect stuff from Funny Astro. Mano, that is filthy.
Plants the sticky bombs. Great stuff from Shockwave.
As Rascal makes his mark.
What's up, guys? Welcome back. We are a little bit through the series of Philadelphia Fusion up against the Hangzhou Spark. The debut for the Spark as well today. The Fusion, yeah, probably kicking themselves just a little bit there. Vicky, it looked like at the very end on Gardens they touched. It looked like pure chaos, and it was, because Sombra Pharah against the good old Rush. It can get pretty dicey, especially when you're trying to cap the point against the Pharah and the EMPs and just everything getting lobbed at you at once. Spark, though, good showing thus far, and it's nice to see a lot of flexibility too. I picked up Architect at the very start. He's a player that I've always looked out for and just a massive hero pool. So this kind of meta suits him really well.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what more Architect could do, especially building into a lot of that chaos that we saw at the end of that first map. Now going on to our second map, though, I know the Spark, they managed to take it from right under Fusion's nose. I know, again, we were making a note of it, how they're probably kicking themselves, but overall, hopefully it doesn't let that affect their mentality going into the second map, because it was so close. Now looking at some of the adjustments that they have to make.
Yes, yes, yes. Does like we've got a small substitution. Yeah, Takoyaki is going to come in. Gushue is taking a little backseat for the time being. This roster, by the way, is absolutely massive. And it's actually something we talked about back on Plat Chat like a while ago when we did the team previews. I did the Spark one. And the calling structure within the team, because there's a lot of Chinese players and there's a lot of Korean players. They kind of, I think it's a 50-50 split. I'll have to go check after this. But we were kind of wondering what they were going to do, if they were going to run the all-Korean squad for some of it or all the Chinese squad for some of it. And it's nice to see that there's a complete integration. Gushue, of course, been playing on a lot of the Korean teams or like Korean dominant teams for a long time, so it's not too much of a surprise to see him coming in and out. But I'm loving MCD Takoyaki coming in, another Element Mystic alumni, a lot of talent on the lad, and it does probably mean we are going to be running some sort of Rhine comp. I think Gushue is a pretty good Rhine too, but his Monkey is just absolutely perfect, as well as his Wrecking Ball, so expecting a little bit more rush now as Takoyaki steps in.
Yeah, I mean, going into our second map being a Watchpoint Gibraltar, I'm excited to see how that's going to play in to a lot of the strength of the players that are subbing right back onto that roster. Now, looking over at the Fusion and Spark, some of those changes could really allow Spark to actually further into their advantage, close out that second map in their favor, and hold on to that advantage because, you know, the moment that you find yourself up 2-0, that's a lot of pressure automatically put onto your opponent. And looking at the Fusion, especially after that last map had ended on that last round, I know for a fact that they definitely want to try to clutch out that second game going forward against the Spark.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, one thing to note too, Toby was having an absolute game of his life, getting so many boops again. I'm like, how do you get these many environmental kills, man? I mean, I probably shouldn't question it at this point in time, you know, but he has been just absolutely stomping and just being able to take care of the main support as well. You saw him kind of dueling out with the MCD when they were on Gardens. That's the perfect job for the Lucio. You can duck, dip, dive, and dodge. You're so quick when you're activating that speed, and you're able to just stop MCD really healing his team. Of course, Carpe came in at the very end and kind of finished him off with a flashbang. But just distraction is normally good enough as a kill in those situations, especially when it's the main healer there, the support that's dealing out the most healing at least. With Gibraltar, interesting that it's subbing Takoyaki in. I thought maybe they'd have Gushue in now because of the dive-orientated map that is Watchpoint Gibraltar, but I guess we'll have to wait and see, of course. I'm curious if they just have Takoyaki in for some maps. Of course, we did see teams like the Shock subbing in Violet for Gibraltar on DPS, so at this point, I have no idea. It's really just going to be a bag of surprises that we're going to have to slowly open as we do get into these later maps, seeing the Spark in 2021.
Yeah, especially since this is just the second weekend of the May Melee Qualifiers. And, you know, looking at the first weekend, you know, every single hero in the game was played last week. So
yeah, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, and even though you saw just for a sneeze of time, Bastion and Roadhog, it's the fact that they were picked at all that you have to pay attention to because, you know, multiple times against a lot of these different compositions and how their clashing styles match up against these other teams while they still figure out their footing and what they're, like, mostly excelled in. I feel like it quite literally depends on the map and a lot of these players that they're going to be able to sub into their favor, like I mentioned earlier. And, you know, depending on how things go here on Watchpoint Gibraltar and a lot of the players that they integrate, they may carry on some of those players going on to the third map, depending on if the Spark maintain a lot of that advantage and that pressure state on the back lines of the Fusion, or if the Fusion is going to be able to adapt around a lot of what Spark has been tacking onto them, especially at the start of those rounds where they've been able to actually take that point first.
Yeah, we are just ready and waiting to get into the lobby. Looks like one of the teams just needs to quickly sort something out, and then we should be good to go. Architect saying IDK is doing a little bit of trolling. Little pinch hand, little troll face pinching hand. Yeah, maybe a little bit of that. But yeah, maybe they do keep Takoyaki in, but I think subbing him in and out as kind of this rookie main tank would be very beneficial for him, getting a little bit more playtime, of course. But again, we don't know. I'm interested to see how they do end up playing this map. Gibraltar, though, let's talk about this one real quick, shall we? This is a sniper's paradise, or at least long-range hit scan. So it's going to be up to Carpe facing off against Godsby. That's a matchup for the ages. Again, we are so close to Carpe hitting that 10k kill mark, man. I am looking forward to the day we see that, because that is a milestone. Does he get a pin or something for 10k kills? That's what I want to know.
He should. He definitely should.
A little pin or a badge, like a sew-on
little.
badge, like you're in the
He
Cub
could wear
Scouts?
it. Yeah, wear it, like, or like a hat, so that way he could wear it,
hat.
a hat. I don't know. Listen, 10K. It literally says this 10K on it with like a little
Just
badge.
says 10k. What kind of hat would it be? A beanie? Or a 10-gallon hat? A 10-gallon hat is actually perfect.
Oh, I like that idea. I like that idea. The 10-gallon
Right,
hat.
we're getting Carpe. When I say we are getting them, the Overwatch League maybe not be getting him a 10-gallon hat, but Carpe, give me your address, buddy. I'll send you a 10-gallon hat, and I will etch 10k on it in a Sharpie. And there you go. That'll be your reward for getting 10k kills. Right, we are going into game though. Let's go. That's enough of this jibber jabber. Let's get into it.
Jibba Jabba Gibraltar now going forward. We're getting set up to talk about being a sniper's paradise. I mean, having a lot of that extra attack damage and utilizing the high ground to your advantage here as the Spark do get set up on the defense. It's going to be interesting to see how this is going to compare to Carpe on the Widowmaker, probably trying to get a quick pick here too, as Godsby is going to be on that Ashe to make sure that you have the Fusion actually having a difficult time on reaching around the car wash and being able to get that payload moving.
Oh yes, indeed. It does be. I think I've lost sound by accident on one of the things, so give me half a second. It does look like they're actually running Takoyaki on the Winston, and they are going Godsby on the Ashe. No pockets, but IDK is going to do just that, throw a few armor packs his way. Normally you just want to armor pack the DPS, not crazy high value to armor pack the tanks. That's more MCD's job. Just like a double bubble as well for the Fusion. Carpe on the Widowmaker going up against Godsby. This is what you want. This is the matchup you want to look out for, man. Especially on the offense too. You can get some really nasty angles if you're Carpe.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how this plays out right now. You can already see where the Fusion's trying to shove Spark out of that high ground. They do successfully manage to keep them out and actually build into some of that aggression. I like the spacing and the immediate retaliation that they're going right back in, though. Alarm taking a lot of that damage. Takoyaki actually finds himself getting anti, but no follow-up coming forward to that. Actually gets out of that difficult situation, and they're still moving the payload through that difficult car wash that I made mention of earlier on, and the high ground is still being controlled over by the Fusion.
Yes, indeed. I mean, being pushed this far up as well is super nice for Carpe. There's a lot of defensive tools that can be used too, because he has a Brigitte literally basically almost on top of him. I mean, he's not going to die. That is for sure. And getting under the car wash, like you said, is the hardest thing. That is what you need to do if you're the offense. Just get under car wash and you should be good. But they're all carrying in server room right now. Godsby, luckily enough though, does manage to find the kill onto Rascal.
Architect taking a lot of the damage, but does manage to get right back in. MCD now with the nano boost put in on Takoyaki. He's building into that primal. Does shove the Fusion off of that high ground. They are going to give some of that respect as they drop down, and they are going in for a different rotation to that point.
Yes, they are. Nano onto Mano though, as they do try and stem the bleeding just a little bit, but Alarm falling to a pulse swap, that's not a good start.
Oh, that and Toby actually getting anti. He doesn't get taken out yet, but it's just up to Toby for that healing output for the rest of Fusion. May not be enough sustainability here, though, as Takoyaki is going absolutely primal rage mode, and Bernard does fall through. Rascal finds that pulse one onto Bernard, and MCD goes in right after him. That just leaves IDK for that sustainability, but the Spark, they're winning in numbers, and they're also able to take this point over to defend successfully. I mean, when you take a look at the way that Fusion just played that, they wanted to essentially try to speedrun to that point, but can they stop Alarm right here? I mean, Carpe got that headshot off of Architect, and he also was given some assistance to Alarm. They're making their way right back over to the Spark to tack on some of the extra pressure, but you have to keep your eye over to Carpe here, Jaws, because this is going to be the threat.
Oh, he almost actually takes the head clean off IDK. Look how scared they're playing. They're playing right at the back as well, because they have to check Rascal too, who's in their backline currently. IDK is still 1 HP, by the way. Someone needs to heal him. Finally gets healed up. I think he actually took a health pack. 3 meters to go, though, and the rally's coming out from Toby.
And the grab as well coming forward, though. 2 members down. IDK does get hit with the anti. The rally now to keep the rest of Spark alive after MCD falls down through. But currently Fusion, they're getting some of that momentum built in their favor. Taki is taking a quick nap. IDK gets stunned and also gets taken out of that fight. Hoppa is going to be able to tack on so much of that damage, getting that energy, and as well as the fact that they get that first point. It is a quick nap here, and they're going to be able to clean up MCD and delay some of those spawns at the same time. And oh, what a terrible situation to be in if you're at the Spark, but they have to go in for a reset.
That was ridiculous. I mean, IDK just needed to be healed way quicker there if you're the Spark. He was out of action for, I don't know how long. I'd have to actually get out a little stopwatch, you know? Like, he was on 2 HP for the longest time after Carpe just shot him in the head briefly. Lucky it wasn't a kill. Well, it might have been better if it was a kill shot, to be honest with you, because he would have respawned. But there we go. Spaceship control is being taken already by the Fusion. They are playing Gibraltar perfectly. This is what you need to do. As soon as you take ship control, the curse that is Point 2 Gibraltar just fades away.
Especially with Carpe hanging on to that position. I mean, he's going to be a menace to deal with, and getting sent back. Mano, he wants to clear up the point. He wants to make sure to send them off of that map, but the Pulse won't find MCD now. Takayuki has that primal to reset, with so many members falling down from the Spark, get stunned right out of their boots, and the rest of Fusion, they're cleaning around, and they're immediately trying to get this second point so quickly. Architect does manage to contest right on time. He takes a lot of that damage, but he's still managing to hold on to the contention. The grab now to get in that follow-up, and Hoppa being able to be there right on time. Toby gets antied, and he gets taken to sleep, but Curly's Spark, unfortunately now, they can't hold them back, and the rest of Fusion, they do manage to get that point.
Yes, we do. Apologies, I didn't hear any of that because I think something crashed, but I think we're good. I think we're good. Little tech wizard, I'm just trying to fix it, and we, yeah, Godspeed takes down Carpe. Woohoo! There you go. 3 minutes on to this last point. I've recovered, it's fine. Will the Spark, though? Not entirely sure. They kind of need to do something at this point. Godspeed's going to be able to send out the Bob, of course, but now you're looking at just Alarm just sending in Mano yet again to pressure out Godspeed, and they've been giving Carpe so much free space. Already they're setting up on the high ground. Spark playing scared once again. They know where everybody's coming from now as well. Carpe is not in the usual spot either. You'd kind of expect him to be near Toby, but taking this nice little off angle, unfortunately now cut off by the Bob, is going to be working wonders for the Fusion. Now he's actually on a little flank as well. Do they actually know he's here? I don't think they do.
Well, they got to keep his eye on him. He's going to be able to get a lot of that pressure going in, and he don't see him. He finds MCD. MCD just managed to pull off that nano boost on time, but at the same time that you have
nice
the
grab.
Fusion building into that momentum, the grab now to stop him short, finding a lot of these picks coming forward and saving the day from what could have been a really lethal situation for Carpe. Takayaki slapping him around, making sure that he gets right back to the team where he belongs. And currently the Spark, now they are going to be able to go in for a reset because they're losing members and they're losing them fast. Taking a quick nap though, they do manage to clean up around Mano before going in for that reset.
Yeah, the spawn advantage there is the worst enemy for the Philly Fusion. You saw the kill feed was white, pink, white, pink, white, pink. It was like mainly Carpe doing a lot of that damage. Like, he killed MCD instantly, the fight begun. And then Architect got killed as well, so he couldn't end up following up. It was the saving grab from Bernard that helped make sure they spawned in time to make an impact on that fight. Rascal with the pulse bomb as well. They haven't really made use of this space if they have Spark. Carpe is still sitting at this really disgusting angle, waiting for Takayaki or Architect to keep their little heads out. Both recalls have been forced too. Does Carpe go on a flank again? I'm not entirely sure, but Toby's going to be able to start the fight good and proper here with his rally, which is available soon. Takayaki with a rally in tow as well if IDK wants to pop that and move them all the way up, but no payload progress has been made. Carpe eventually checked, but still 2 HP is scurrying all the way back to their old spawn. Pulse bomb on top, Bernard goes down, and that'll be the fight over, I think. They got to push all the way into their spawn now.
Carpe finally went down after Takayaki chased him to the great beyond, all the way to Narnia out here. Hoppa now does have that nano boost as well as nearly 100 energy charge. Overall, though, is still dealing so much of that damage.
God,
clearing point. Goodbye, Takayaki. And the Spark have to desperately get on this point. Need to contest. Less than 45 seconds left on board, and no one's there to touch. They do manage to take the payload all the way home.
Yeah, I may have caught that fight a little bit earlier there, right? Where I was like, well, the fight's basically over now as Takayaki is in the backline trying to kill Carpe, and he does eventually, but it's the stalling Widowmaker, again, sometimes the deadliest. Widowmaker just existing. You know, he can't leave Widow because she's instantly going to get healed. He has to go for the kill and then retreat to the rest of his team, but all the meanwhile, what's happening? Well, I mean, the rest of the team are just following up on your front line. Like, it's ridiculous. As soon as Takayaki is out of the fight, it's just absolutely free ball for Hotba. He gets nanoed, they run forwards, and that is basically it. There's nothing stopping that gigantic lays out 100 energy and nano boosted from tearing it through the rest of the team. Takayaki, unfortunately, overextending just a little bit. I don't think he had Primal Rage to get back either, which would have been the perfect play. If you had Primal, he kills the Widow, Primal's back, and then the disruption happens. But it was all on Hotba there, and Alarm just making use of that time that Carpe was giving them.
Yeah, especially with the mobility that the Primal would have given over to Takayaki. Fortunately, didn't have it, and that's a lot of that split attention that we actually had seen earlier on within the Hunter series with Jimmy actually splitting a lot of that focus, and we just saw it play out in full force with Hotba holding that front line as Carpe actually pulled Takayaki away from that fight. Going forward though, the Fusion now on the defense, Spark now having to contest on the attack. Already wasting no time though. Godspeed still sticking to the Ashe. Carpe's gonna match him though on the Ashe himself, and they're already trying to shove the Fusion off of that high ground with the Spark, also trying to go through that car wash that we made mention of. It's so difficult to try to get through, and you can already see the Fusion, they're not giving up that corner too easily.
Yeah, they're not, and it's exactly the opposite of what Spark did, right? They played all the way back almost, just respecting Carpe a whole bunch. Maybe not wanting to give him his 10k kills, I don't know. Oh, dearie me. Banar's in a very, very sticky situation. Takayaki as well is actually under the car wash, taking care of Rascal, who was touching the payload for a long while there, mind you, as well, stopping any momentum. Takayaki's going to be able to get healed up again and just go in for this dive with the bubble. He isn't going to spot all too much, as actually the rest of the Philadelphia Fusion are scurrying back to server room already, as Rascal going down means the fight is basically over for them and them going for a reset.
You see the way that they're backing off right here, just going in for the quick disengage with
What's he doing there?
He went in, he saw red. He saw no vision, he saw red, and unfortunately it didn't go well for him, but fortunately now for the Fusion, they can get a little aggressive. This is going to be their cue to be able to hold the front lines, and they're sending back the Spark. They're going to give in some of that respect, and I like the way that they're prioritizing their positioning rather than just making sure that they get those staggered picks.
Yeah, I love the forward position here, like you just said. I mean, resetting just entirely, like the map is almost afresh. Nano boost on high ground though, maybe Hotba's in a little bit of trouble, but can Takayaki actually find anything? No, he can't, is the answer.
They Mosquito swapped him out of that high ground. He goes put to sleep. He does have that Primal to reset, but wants to take full utilization over this Nano boost. He does shove the Spark over to this close quarters corridor, as well as the fact that they are trying to fight for this high ground positioning. You still have Architect pushing the payload over to that car wash. You see already, Carpe's not giving that over to for free. Takayaki now pops the Primal now, shoves all of the Fusion out of that high ground, and now allows the rest of Spark to make their way over to the high ground, attack on some of the extra pressure for Godspeed, and enable him to force the Fusion to respect.
Yeah, that was crazy. Just pushing everybody off the high ground there was the perfect play for Takayaki. Perfect use of the Primal Rage. Stops Carpe getting a nice little angle as well. Architect's doing a good job of just pushing the payload currently, but he's going to have to worry about Carpe with his Bob coming up soon. It's going to be up to the rallies here at the end of it all. IDK is going to have to pop it fairly soon and take server control. They're going to just have to just stand there and take Carpe's bullets to the face as well as that Bob.
Oh, the grab is online, waiting for that opportunity from Hoppa. Fortunately, Mono took so much of that damage. He's out of that fight, letting that Dynamite close things up, and the grab now being able to clean things up. The Fusion now nowhere in sight to go in for this defense. They are trying to go in for that high ground to at least tack on some of that pressure. You can see Carpe now getting into position with Alarm and Toby. At the same time, though, Carpe took so much damage right there, and Takayaki wasting no time to jump on Alarm. Finding Alarm, though, right before Alarm was able to utilize that Nano boost at the same time. They're still managing to contest on this point, but for how much longer here, Jaws, after Mono and Carpe now fall, it may want to be a reset here for Fusion, but they're still trying to waste as much time as possible away from the Spark.
Man, Alarm actually used the Nano boost there on Toby at the very end, and you saw as we got Toby POV for a couple of seconds, he did nothing with the nano boost. He was hoping there to kind of touch, but with Carpe going down, he actually got anti-naded by MCD, him and someone else, and that just enabled Takoyaki to just jump in. It's free real estate, it's free kills, honestly. Speaking about free kills and real estate, they've already taken ship control, but the Philadelphia Fusion just trying their hardest to push them off. Rally's being used by Toby as they do assault the high ground.
Rally for Rally and anti onto Hoppa. The grab now doing so much damage. Takoyaki not only was antied, but they immediately melted him down despite IDK utilizing that rally to keep the rest of Spark alive. Now, this position that they're opting for, as they do drop down from that high ground, they're going to give that ship over to Carpe, who's still going to be able to have that line of sight over the payload and shove the Spark back into that side room.
Yeah, look how aggressive the Philadelphia Fusion are playing. This is how you want to do it if you're on Watchpoint Gibraltar. 2 minutes do remain, though. I mean, there's still a fair bit to go if you are pushing the payload, which is exactly what Architect's doing. MC is going to pop the Yano on Takoyaki, and Godspeed trying to go for the little flank here. Oh, he's in trouble.
Oh, they find him while Godspeed is down here. Rascal follows up, and Architect gets the revenge onto Rascal. Rascal has that pulse bomb coming right back in, but so does Mono, having that primal. Renard's trying to find that opportunity to build into that grab, and yeah, they still need to touch because the time is ticking away right now, Jaws. You have a minute and nearly 45 seconds. Meanwhile, you still have the Fusion holding onto this defense and forcing Spark to fight for this high ground positioning.
Yeah, you can't. They have to push it all the way back now because Architect's been pushing this payload for so long. They have got Graviton Surge, and Bernard can just launch it at the back line. He does just that.
And with the sticking on the pulse bomb, it finds Toby and Carpe. That's 2 huge picks here, and allowing Spark to take full advantage for the revenge. The revenge. Rascal said, "Excuse me, Architect, I would like to take that back from you real quick and send it right back over to the Spark." But God's now answering right back, getting a quick 3K with some assistance from Bob, the helper, and now they currently have that second point, and what a performance going back and forth. Both of these teams have been absolutely ruthless. Rascal making a statement, sending the Architect back to the spawn.
Yeah, actually dominated. Rascal took the mini health pack away from Architect there, so he couldn't end up picking him up, and then he just crouched in the corner and just shot him in the head a few times. That was a beautiful little 1v1 there. Little spice on top. I mean, that was beautifully played by the Spark. Like I was mentioning before, Architect was pushing the payload the whole time. The Philadelphia Fusion, yes, they had position, but they needed to be able to touch at the same time in order for Architect not to do that. And then he had to posture all the way back, and then it was Godspeed and Architect's Pulse Bomb and Bob that really finished and sealed the deal on that second point. Again, super far forward positioning from the Philadelphia Fusion. They want to play aggro, and they're doing just that.
I like the way that the Fusion has this positioning. They know that Carpe's been a threat, and they try to send Architect and Takoyaki to deal with that threat on the high ground, as they do have the ability to do so. You see Takoyaki now diving right back in. He has that primal to reset real quick. It's a matter of finding who's going to find his first. The grab attack, Takoyaki gets put to sleep. He has nowhere to go, and they clean him out before he can actually pull the trigger on the primal. Now trading through, Rascal falls in, and you currently have the Fusion taking so much of that damage. Toby activates the rally, but Rascal and Carpe, they've fallen through. They will be able to try to get back into this fight, but is it going to be too late now that Godspeed has managed to take that pick onto Carpe? Alarm is put to sleep. He has that nano boost, and the grab coming alive. It's going to be a cleanup right here, Jaws, as the rest of Spark, they send Fusion back to the spawn.
Well, again, it's just the small touches of the payload that are really working out well here for the Spark. It was Godspeed and Architect just kind of juggling the touches there, making sure it's ever so slowly pushing forwards. They're not going to beat the time here by the Philadelphia Fusion, but they're going to do a good crack at it at least. Bob's going to come out, and is anybody going to be able to touch? Yes, it's Bob, and he actually gets booped away.
Oh, you also currently have Rascal, who came right in from the side and gets that pulse bomb pick off of the IDK. Architect falls through too. Despite that Bob being on board, it still manages to get in a lot of the space and buy in a lot of the time for Fusion to try to make their way over. It's getting contested, and the time is still ticking away, and they still manage to make it right back onto the point here, Jaws.
Vicky, they need one pick, and that's it.
They need to find a way to go in. They find Alarm. This is that opportunity for them to try to hold forward, but at the same time, Fusion, they're holding on to these front lines, and they have less than 10 seconds to touch this point.
Miracle pick from Mano there, killing off IDK. Now they don't have speed to actually touch the payload in time. It's going to be down to Architect to try and jump on in, or even someone else. No, it's not good enough. The Philadelphia Fusion are going to take it, Vicky.
Wow. Going back and forth between these two teams right now, Jaws, I mean, it's a matter of who has their heart on the edge of having a heart attack, because currently you have the Spark after that first map looking at Fusion like, all right, you know, we got it. And then meanwhile, you have the Fusion looking right back at the Spark with some revenge gleaming in their eye to tell that story right back, taking that second map.
Oh my word. Mano chasing IDK so far up. That's such an intelligent pick because he can't speed the rest of his team back. And like I said, it was on Architect to touch. He is the Tracer after all, but he was just no way near the payload. Even in a Pulse Bomb online as well. Those stalls like that, they're pretty devastating, especially when you have Wrecking Ball. You had Primal Rage as well from the Winston, able to bash people away. And of course, having 1,000 HP does help as well. And just slowly but surely they're able to trickle back onto the point. Even a Batiste as well, very useful in those situations at the very end. Throwing out the lamp is something else the enemy team has to kill and deal with in order to kill the rest of the people on the payload. These are nail-biters, Vicky, this Spark versus Fusion match. And, hey, I'm glad it's not a 3-0, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say right here, you know, at least we're tied 1-1 in the series. We're going to be able to see which of these teams are going to break that tie, though. Again, it's first to 3. Don't go anywhere because we're going on to a map number 3 after this break.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest and fastest 5G network. Set your sights on the competition with T-Mobile. The Overwatch League is brought to you by Pringles. Stay in the game.
Another nail-biting finish for Gibraltar. One apiece in this series. Philadelphia Fusion and the Hangzhou Spark. We're going into our third map now, Vicky, and it's all about these very, 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 very small plays. I mentioned it just before we jumped to break, but Mano chasing down IDK, killing the Lucio, removing the speed boost, no one could touch, and that stall just worked out well for the Philadelphia Fusion at the very end. Map number 3 is coming up soon. We're seeing a lot what the Spark have to offer already. Takayaki coming in on the Winston of all things. I thought it would be a Reinhardt, showing they've got a lot more to show everybody.
Yeah, honestly, I like the way that they really try to fixate that attention onto Carpe. But while Carpe was doing a lot of the pressure from on the high ground, you still have Architect following up from Bernard and that grab that we had seen on the high ground closer to the hangar. And overall, I like these changes that we're seeing from both these teams. It's going quite literally down to the wire for both of them. So it's so difficult to anticipate what we have to see from these teams. You know, kind of different from our first series that we had for the day, opening up 8-pack. Now, looking at going into map number 3, though, Jaws, what are you anticipating from both these teams?
Oh, I mean, we're going into CB, so Hanamura is going to be our map. And I need to see the substitutions first, I think, before I make any final judgments on that. However, I did just receive word that Carpe is 4 kills away from 10,000 kills in the Overwatch League. So it will happen on Hanamura. That is for sure. So we will point that out the moment it happens. doesn't look like we've actually got any substitutions at all. So
Okay.
Takoyaki staying in for the Spark, and this is kind of what I thought would happen on Gibraltar, which would have been a surprise, to be fair, seeing Ryan on Gibraltar, the high grounds, and it's always been a dive map regardless of the meta anyway. But this is the time I think the Spark are going to be showing the rush comp with the Rhine. Takoyaki more of a Rhine specialist than he is in the Winston, and the Flex God. Architect, of course, playing the May, and I think they're going to mirror them. I can't imagine they're going to go to anything too wacky here like we've seen previous.
Yeah, going over to Hanamura, it's going to be quite interesting to see what we have opened up between the Spark and the Fusion, especially with some of those adjustments in those subs that came in after that Gibraltar game. And, both these teams, they found their footing here. They're sticking to the players that they currently have playing on the roster. No subs coming in. And with no changes coming forward, though, Jaws, it's going to be interesting to see what we have coming in for the Spark. What kind of difference would you anticipate? After they took the first map, it was still very close. It was a nail-biter between them and the Fusion. And, looking at the second map, it looked like the Fusion finally kind of had their number. They started building up more momentum where they felt a lot more confident, and it really showed that, especially within that last few seconds of that last payload round.
Yeah, the confidence is just beaming from the Fusion right now. They are taking every single aggressive angle possible, like on the defense, on the offense. Like, they will make sure they take spaceship control on second point. Yeah. They are taking forward high ground on third point as well when they're on the defense. And the Spark are playing a little bit more passively against the Fusion. Didn't really work out on Gibraltar at all. And especially if you take those forward positions on a payload map, it can be devastating because the payload eventually will end up rolling all the way back to the spawn point. If you're not careful, you have to kind of keep touching it. And it was on Architect and a little bit of Godsby as well, kind of touching the payload, making sure it's permanently moving forwards. I think Architect's actually a bit more of an unsung hero here, especially the second point, just consistently moving it forward, forced the Fusion away from their massive high ground control and just killing potential that they had up there. So yeah, definitely props to him. Not doing any damage, but still doing a lot of work on the ground. Hanamura is the map, like we said, is gonna be rush. It has to be. Maybe a little bit double shield as well. We are going to see who on the defense first. Looks like it's going to be the Spark, so at least we can kind of talk about this comp. Double shield, a little bit. Oh, you guys can't see. There you go. You see now. Double shield, a little bit of Zen, and also Architect on the Echo. Also, did they think of Architect when they were designing Echo, or like the flex squads that we do have in the Overwatch League? You know, it's like, oh, what players can play every single hero? Oh yeah, people like Architect. Echo's like the perfect hero for it.
Quite literally a ditto in life.
Yeah.
Just overall, just being able to mold into any of those other DPS roles and just being so flexible as a player allows him to actually counterpick a lot of what Fusion's trying to throw right back at them, and just managing to keep the Fusion, keeping in on Carpe though on the Symmetra. You may note the silly Symmetra earlier on we had seen these teams face off on the first map, and they are going to try to TP over to the point, wasting no time. And with that Lucio boost, you can already see they've already made their way over, and they're already pitching the tent to make sure that Fusion actually find a difficult time on dealing with the fact that Spark is unfortunately not there to match with them. Spark now finally finding their way over, but they've already taken the first take, matching over to the second take. Carpet took a lot of that damage, but the Immortality Field? I mean, can someone contest them here? The Immortality Field is finally done with, but you currently have the rest of Fusion managing to tack on so much of that damage and take care of Takoyaki. That's going to be Bernard falling through and speed running their way over to that first point now, Jaws. I mean, when we were talking about how close these matches were going, I was not anticipating Fusion from waiting to just actually speed run their way to that first point.
And there we... I can't. There we go. I can hear something now.
Oh, we hear you. We got
yeah,
you.
Okay,
We got
good
you.
stuff. Sorry, my audio device is just messing up. Carpe just released his 10,000th kill. I was hoping to make that something completely epic, but I lost all sound, which wasn't great. But Hangzhou Spark looking like they're losing their minds right now on this second point. That wall is just destroying them.
What? They're just immediately deleting the Spark. Where are they? They haven't even been able to touch a painted Tacky on the point. Bob has been on this point longer, and look how quickly they took care of that. Immediately took him out of that fight with the pin. And wow, with a 5-minute and 20-second time bank, that is definitely one way to flex the fact that you made 10,000 kills if you were Carpe and his history within the Overwatch League.
Oh boy, and what better hero to do it on than Sim, huh? Symmetric. It wasn't Widowmaker, it wasn't something super flashy. You didn't get like a 360 spinning headshot off of the top of King's Row or something, but no, it was a Sim beam just killing people on the point. Congratulations to Carpe, of course. 10,000 kills is just a monumental achievement to have as a DPS player in Overwatch League, and yeah, what a history the players had too. And might be a little bit of a gift as Spark are giving him right now, 5 minutes and 20 seconds in the time bank for their next attack, if they grant Spark that privilege as well. What an absurd roll that was onto second point. The Symmetra being able to build up wall, especially that quickly on first, and then just rolling on second, just TP almost straight onto point. Oh, wall, now you have to deal with that. What are you going to do? Your double shield, and if you were looking at the comp that the Spark were running, they were running double shield and are very like poke orientated. You had the Zen poking people out, the Ashe poking people, Echo as well, and the Sigma obviously taking nice little off angles. You can't really deal well with Brawl at all if you go on the point. The comps just don't work. The comp just doesn't work well into Brawl because Brawl wants to run at you and kill you, which is perfect because that's the main weakness of this double shield comp that wants to hold these little off angles.
Honestly, when the Spark was trying to defend this first point, it just looked like they were absolutely bamboozled. The way that Fusion just quite literally rolled up in there and wasted no time on capturing that point and dealing so much of that pressure. Thanks to Toby as well for being able to speed boost the rest of the team forward. Now keeping Godspeed off of that high ground, immediately gets pooped off of it thanks to that focus from Hotba. The way the Architect is now trying to find this pressure onto the flank. You already see the way that the rest of Fusion has been able to tack on some of that pressure, take care of Takoyaki, and force out that res off of IDK. Going forward though, you see Carpe. He is taken out of this fight. Architect now coming in from the high ground, calling it from the heavens, and getting pocketed from IDK. Unfortunately, he doesn't get out there on time, doesn't latch on to Architect. Now that they've lost IDK, that just leaves it up to MCD to help that sustainability for the rest of the Spark. You already see the high ground control coming in from Rascal, who took on some of that damage. He is able to help top off that damage with the health pack and with Alarm holding onto this window. A window to your soul as you find yourself going right back down to the spot. Takoyaki has been bullied thus far on this attack. As Jaws gets set up right now, what better way to have a debut Overwatch League cast than having a solo cast, right? Am I right here? And Architect now is going to be able to build into that duplicate. See Spark trying to find that opportunity to get up to this point, but already that time bank isn't looking as heavenly as the way that the Fusion made it look like when they were able to sim TP over to the point. They're trying to delay the inevitable, and the duplicate over to the Reinhardt. He's trying to get in some of the shatters that the Echo could build in, so quickly finds Hoppa. Hoppa gets out of the situation. We're gonna get met together though with Seth. Seth, help me out here, because at the moment Spark, they looked like they were in a grim situation, and now they're cleaning up Fusion.
Yeah, they absolutely are. Don't worry, you got your moment there. Welcome to the Overwatch League. Welcome to the Impact broadcast. Hopefully we can get Jack back in here pretty quickly, but decent little cleanup here for the side of the Hangzhou Spark, but Time Bank is not going to be, quite as strong, so besting the Fusion is not really an option at all. So 4 minutes 40 for them to start as they get ready to move over to point B, but there's a decent amount of snowball potential here. Also getting ready to come online. That sound barrier for Toby that he's looking to build is going to be really instrumental in surviving this oncoming onslaught from the side of the Spark. Because, I mean, if you look at it, they nearly have this grab online. They have the Bob, they have the Primal Rage. There's a lot of tools for the Spark to work with right now to try to take this point, and they need to do it very quickly so they're not at a super big disadvantage in overtime as far as the time picks are concerned. There's Carpe looking for a pick.
Yeah, trying to find that opportunity right here. The bubble's still there and allows the Spark to see another day. And you currently have Fusion building into some of those ultimates that you were worried about here. And they are trying to force off the Spark from this high ground. The grab now coming alive. They have to focus down on the lamp. They do manage to do so, and the shatter. It's looking so chaotic here in the side room. We're trading forward, but the number advantage going in favor to the Fusion as they do manage to find a way to sandwich the Spark and send them back to the spawn. And you currently have here, Seth, they utilize so many of their ultimates that you still have Fusion holding onto that amp matrix. You still have Hoppa with the Diva Bomb to go in for a reset, and that's going to put a dent to some of Spark's plans.
I mean, that went about as catastrophically as it possibly could have for the Spark. They dumped everything into the fight, but they get cleaned up. They do manage to find some kills in the back end onto Alarm and Toby, but the damage has been done. You know, the sound barrier really getting its value right there, helping everybody else survive the fight. It was a great shatter going in from Mono. Try to stave them off. Fire Strike comes up with a kill, and I mean, Fusion are just kind of basking in the chaos of these fights in close quarters here in the hallway. They do manage to capitalize. It's a really good hold from them. Now they're going to have the window. Just looking to stave them off yet again. Mono going to be going in deep. Carpe saying, you know what? I don't need the amp matrix at all. Just push it straight past. Oh, what a shot.
A one-man team out here. He was able to go into that window, find Godspeed, make a statement here. IDK, though, does manage to keep Godspeed in this fight with the res. Now, with the Nano Boost coming alive, as well as the Primal. Takayuki could go all in and go Primal crazy here. He gets stunned. He backs off. I like the disengage so that way he could reposition himself. It's a matter of forcing Fusion to respect that. And the way that Spark is currently positioned here, he can now dive right back in. Big Angie coming alive, finding 3. Mono's put to sleep, and he gets cleaned out of this fight, as well as Shatter not being present in this fight. Luckily, the spawn is right there, but this is going to be the opportunity for Spark to get a little aggressive, although they have to be wary. It's only MCD to help out with the sustainability.
Yeah, this duplicate right now not getting a huge amount of value. He's almost got the pulse bomb online with about 6 seconds left to go. Now finally has it, goes in. He does get the stick. And he'll find that kill. Really nicely done, but the fight is still going the way of the Fusion right now.
No, yeah, Architect is popping off, but at the same time, Fusion have that number advantage. It's going to be a matter of time before Carpe finds him falling through, and he does so successfully. So now we have a minute and 45 seconds on board for the Spark to try to take control over this point.
It was such a rough start to the fight. I mean, Takayuki goes in with the Primal Rage, but then instantly gets dragged down the stairwell, pinned by Mono. He takes too much damage and he has to back off, so they don't really get to do much of anything with that ultimate. They still have others getting ready to come online, but yet again, Toby is prepared. He has this sound barrier up to try to counteract Bernard's grab. You can see Carpe waiting on the flank. Does have the Deadeye available, so he's going to be looking for another pick, if not just to zone them off the point and buy that much more time here for the Fusion. I mean, it's going to be under a minute. It might even be in OT, so Hangzhou, they might have to play, for a draw if it comes down to it, if they can actually get this cap. They're looking for it now.
Trying to find that opportunity. Here comes Carpe, though, over to the flank to try to find that Deadeye opportunity. They're poking, but he doesn't pull the trigger on it just yet. Actually wanted to wait, but they do find that pick onto IDK, which is going to be big here, because it's going to force the Spark to respect the Fusion a little bit more, as they are going to have to wait out. IDK does swap over to the Brigitte. MCD still holding on to that Nano Boost, and it's going to be absolutely crucial here with less than a minute on board for them to take this point.
Yeah, this is really just dire straits at the moment. Didn't get to use too much. IDK now over on the Brigitte just to try to control Rascal to have another little shield to step behind. Oh, Godspeed!
Oh,
that's a disgusting shot.
They sent him straight back to the grave. The ultimates are alive, and this is going to be Spark's opportunity to make their way right over. The duplicate is nearly reaching its way back in the window now to buy in some of that space. Alarm trying to attack on some more of that pressure. The Immortality Field is going to help out Toby and Alarm here. And you currently have Takayuki trying to hold up, trying to be super aggressive. Carpe finds Architect, which would have been absolutely lethal here. The grab now coming forward, but nobody to find any members of Fusion with that Summer to help them out. Both support lines are finally done. They do manage to touch, but the Shatter coming in to clean them up, force him off this point. He has to jump right back in. He does so on time. Seth, currently he's won. He didn't live anymore. No one needs to touch. Architect was right there. Unfortunately, couldn't get there on time, but Fusion, they take the third map.
And it's just wonderfully done by the Fusion at every twist and turn. Carpe yet again going back to I put it in quotes, panic Widowmaker at the end to hold a point. We've seen it from time and time again. I still think back to his huge moment at the start of last year when we had the Fusion homestand, swapping over to Widowmaker on Nepal in Sanctum, coming in big, getting multiple kills. He does the same thing here with the Widowmaker, finding that initial pick to allow them to turn the fight around. It was just absolutely wonderfully done by the Fusion. They balanced well. Toby constantly just building up these sound barriers, holding them for the crucial moment. So as soon as that grab comes out from Bernard, they are just perfectly fine to survive through it. I mean, it was a double anti-nade onto Alarm and Toby, but because of that sound barrier shield, the Spark, they just can't capitalize.
Yeah, that sound barrier came at the perfect time here. Now, though, Spark, they're not tied up in the series anymore. They're at a disadvantage with Fusion holding it down 2-1. We're going on to a map number 4, though. We're going to see what's going on with Jaws real quick, Seth. And right after this break, we'll be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere.
Join me.
Objective A captured. New defense point.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League. Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Yeah, you know what? We're halfway through the series so far, Seth, and, looking at the way that these teams played out, I mean, when I had to take over, they made it easy for me overall. I mean, I was like, okay, the action just started kicking up, and I had a really fun time overall. Now, going on to map number 4, though, I'm interested to see what Spark is going to do. What seemed to be a close situation for them now has slowly drifted away from them, and now in favor for Fusion to not only get that ball rolling of momentum in their favor, but also making quite a speedrun statement for their first initial assault for the map.
Well, what a fool I am. Apparently I was muted. Look at that. But I was going to say, it
I didn't
happens,
even know. I heard you.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Is we couldn't tell. We were having a fun conversation. Everybody else just had no idea.
I was talking to myself.
But it's all right. So, yeah. So everybody, when you catch up, My apologies. But it was a solid start, is what I was saying, for the Hangzhou Spark there on Hanamura. You know, they weren't able to quite match the initial time bank, obviously. Like, Fusion had such a significant lead, but they still came in with nearly 5 minutes on the board to try to get that point. But like you said, it just slowly kind of just spiraled out of control for them. They couldn't find any footing. They couldn't get ahead in any of these team fights. So just really... It's just really rough. This is a really slippery slope to be on if you're the Hangzhou Spark, to try to, persevere mentally and come back into, what is now match point for them to, try to extend us into a 5th and final map. But we'll see if they're going to be able to do it. But the pressure is certainly on.
Yeah, again, it's best of 3 and currently Fusion. They're at set point. Going on to Eichenwald, though, I'm interested to see some of those adjustments coming in from Spark. And Seth, I know you caught that last map, and what kind of adjustments would you anticipate from Spark going forward? I mean, I know the Fusion kind of caught them off guard, being able to get super aggressive with that Sim TP, and unfortunately, the Spark were on the double shield. They were trying to go more for that poke damage from afar, and they weren't really ready to take that battle up close. Going forward, though, they have that in mind as they are going to be starting off on the attack with the Fusion now going forward and holding on to the defense.
I mean, it's really hard to say like what they should do. They're going to have the attacker's advantage. Architect right now playing with the idea of taking to the skies. We saw IDK flashing on the Mercy. Seems like he's going to be at least looking for an opening shot with his Widow. Let's go for a pop shot over the top, see if he gets somebody, and then everybody storms the point. He's not going to be able to see anything, so we will see a swap off. IDK's waiting for him with a Mercy, so probably going to be the Echo, and it is. And we will see Shy move over to the Sombra. I like this because this is going to allow them to get the hacks in onto the Diva, so they can actually push some damage through from this Echo, as well as just, potentially hack Mono to drop a shield.
No, not again. Shy's waiting, just easing their way in, just so that way they get that opportunity to get over 3rd time's around. Yeah, there we go. We see you, Shy. Managing to try to get that health pack as well on the hack. Also try to build into that next round of PvP. Yeah, he just walked in, and he's right behind them, too.
Just playing they're playing on the point. He could have just ran there. Would have saved a lot of time.
Yeah, so that way he can split some of that focus and attention too. I mean, Architect, though, is building into that duplicate ever so slightly, just getting in some of that poke pressure and coming forward, though. Spark, they're taking a good amount of pressure going forward from Fusion. Does finding that hack onto Mono, but unfortunately doesn't get too much off of it, despite the anti actually landing onto Mono. Hoppa takes a lot of that blunt force and finding their way to disengage. I like this positioning from Carpet because he's uncontested right now. Gushway taking a lot of the damage. He gets out in time, though, managing to get saved by that nano boost. At the cost of Bernard, though, you currently have the Spark winning in numbers, and they're trading for Architect and IDK. That just leaves MCD for that sustainability. Gushway gets hit right here to go all the way forward. Anti hit it on to Fusion. Now they're stuck over to the side. The Blizzard from Rascal could really make it or break it to hold on to this point, but they have no opportunity with Gushway taking care of Mono and Toby.
Wait, he's going to use the Blizzard?
Oh,
okay, he uses it on the Gushway. He's going to try to buy some time.
Oh, he does, and they're just waiting perfectly right here. The window now on top of the high ground. You currently have Fusion now being able to actually turn a bad situation into a way better one thanks to Rascal's timing on that Blizzard and making sure Gushway won't be in that fight to contest. Now the rest of Fusion have made their way over, and the Deadeye coming alive to buy in some of that space and time.
It's going to be the duplicate here. As Architect gets a really nice pin kill on Mono, tries to get a shatter down. Won't be able to find too much, but they do find Rascal. 32 ticks picked up for them, so they can definitely press the advantage. They have the grab, they have the EMP ready to go, and it seems like Fusion are just going to have to give this up eventually. So this will get taken, so decent little time bank here for the side of the Hangzhou Spark, but that was such a crazy turnaround, albeit a short-lived one from Rascal.
Yeah, I like how Shy didn't want to overextend and just hold on to the EMP instead. I like that Gushway at the same time is also trying to hold on to that high ground positioning, try to force Fusion out as they are trying to make their way over. They gotta push the payload though, and they're just trying to find that opportunity at the same time. And the Valkyrie getting called online, just I guess trying to help out the sustainability while the rest of Fusion just happily sits on this high ground, looking right back down on Spark.
Shy creeping around through the castle, looking for some targets, just trying to call out locations here for the rest of his team. See when he finds the opportunity to strike. He could try to hold the EMP maybe as a countermeasure for this sound barrier, because they can force the sound barrier with something like a Graviton Surge and then just wipe all those shields out. Shy does have to drop back though. We'll see what exactly they want to go for first. Nano Boost comes in, they find Toby. Reinforcements come in to try to save him though, so it's just a peel game now.
Ooh, but Gucci actually finding Alarm at the same time in that engagement to reset right back into the Primal. Great timing right there and awareness from Gucci. He's going to manage to go right back over and stop the approach from Fusion. Not only is he buying time to allow the rest of Spark to push this payload, but now Spark actually are able to move onto that high ground so that way they can take control and prevent Fusion from being able to reclaim this aggression and defense over by the point.
They get a lot of distance on this Carpet Rascal with a really nice pulse bomb. Opens things up, Deadeye used by Carpe, finds IDK, just can't fly away fast enough. Bernard going down here, that's going to cancel any energy that he has built up, is still holding on to this grab. But this is just allowed time for Fusion to come back in, get these picks, stop the cart in its tracks, and also build up some of these other ultimates for themselves. So Alarm has a nano boost online, so it's a good amount of defensive utility here for the side of Fusion. If they get jumped on, like I said, Toby still is holding on to that sound barrier, really wants to use it to counteract either the grab or this EMP.
Yeah, they've been holding on to it for a while too, since before they managed to get this payload moving, and Architect tacking on a lot of damage, being able to get out of that situation. Does have that duplicate though, and they are right over Carpe at the same time. Does pull out the duplicate to copy over the Wisdom. He gets immediately booted out of it though. Alarm wasting no time. Architect now is going to be able to clean things up. The EMP coming in and does find both of the supports, but no follow-up. Spark though does have Architect to be able to control that front line, and they are able to get this payload moving with the rest of Fusion going in for a reset before trying to reclaim that position.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if they really necessarily needed to use the sound barrier there in response to the grab. It seemed like they were going to be okay for the most part, but then as soon as the EMP wipes out all of the shields, it definitely goes sideways. So Toby just, in a fairly, catch-22 situation, so rough spot to be in. Gucci now diving in, but they're stunning him up.
Oh, I love the way that Gucci has been able to actually push on this aggressive stage. Not only being able to put himself in the front lines, but also being able to time this Primal so that way he's quite literally a threat to focus down for. Oh no, he was right there, but Toby actually managed to stuff him short, and they are going to be able to clean up this point. Big anti coming in, Carpe and Toby, but thankfully, despite Hoppa falling in, they still have Mono to be able to hold on to this front line, enable Carpe so that way he can still tack on some of that extra pressure, and Rascal with the pulse bomb coming in, gonna be able to get in not only some of the pressure, but Bernard and IDK, they're gone from this fight. They are gonna have to regroup, but luckily the rally is online for them to try to take the second point.
I mean, it was just really great from Toby. I mean, this is the bridge of death. He is the boop god. He might not be playing the Lucio, but he still gets him with a whip shot and sends him into the pit. So a great little tap by him. Just get Gucci out of the fight. So cannot just, pull back, get healed up, and then re-aggress. Now they buy this much more time. OT going to be ticking away as they look to get this cart moved up into point B. They're starting to inch it forward now as Architect spots Rascal around the back.
Shy just trying to tack on some of that pressure so that we can build into that EMP. The rally now coming in from IDK to match that of Toby. They do need to get onto the point right here, especially Spark now coming in. The grab now going to be able to be utilized. Trap Mono and the big anti onto him. He's stacking in a lot of that damage, but it's not going to be enough. Yeah, unfortunately, they can't close him out. Hoppa having that Diva mech so that way he can utilize the Diva bomb to reset that helpful overtime ticking away. Finding that pick onto Architect though leaves up to Shy with a big EMP, finding 4. Nobody though from Fusion has fallen. Instead, it's Fusion doing the cleaning up on aisle 3. And unfortunately for Spark, none of these members are left up to the point right now, Seth, and being able to hold them right before that second point.
Yeah, that's as good as it's going to get here for the side of the Spark on Eichenwald. I mean, really good. The EMP comes in and manages to catch 3 members on the side of the Fusion, including both of the supports, but there's just so much armor pushed out onto Alarm. Toby, obviously, there with the Brig, can still play defensively and just keep that healing rolling through just by holding down his left click. And they just can't capitalize. They can't turn it around. The solo grab into the Mono, it doesn't pay off. It doesn't lead them to getting a kill. Had they gotten that, then we might be looking at a very different situation. We might be looking at the cart moving forward into point C, but the nano boost is enough to help keep him alive through it. They top him up. The Bionade's not enough to get the kill. So they managed to get the hold in front of B, and it's not very far to go here for the Fusion to just go ahead and close this out, because this is the series on the line now for the Spark. They need to basically, they're going to be looking for a full hold in order to take us into a final map. Otherwise, Fusion very well could run away with this.
Yeah, but looked to be a close series at the very start here. Seth is now trickling away from Spark. I like the fixation onto Mono when they were trying to take them off of this defense, displace them, but we've seen the grab and as well as the nano boost to help out Mono stay alive. it was just so difficult. So many resources put into Mono, especially trying to close out the approach option from that side room while they were trying to make their way over to the point. Now making some changes though, going forward. Fusion on the attack now. Dynamite coming in, and the Spark already getting set up into position. I have my eyes currently on Architect, who's been able to be quite a threat from the skies. Overall, Carpe has been doing a really good job at making sure that Architect isn't too much though on the back line.
We need to be really careful piloting this. Obviously, they don't have a pocket healer for Architect, so he's just going to be taking shots from the Ana as well as the armor packs from IDK to try to keep him topped up. Packs, I guess, these days. So far, he's managed to elude line of sight from Carpe. Hasn't been taking too much damage, just poking away, trying to build up. Shy in a really rough spot.
Oh no, that was quite a difficult situation to be in if you're Shy. Thankfully, Rascal's wall allowed the rest of Fusion to take full advantage of that. They're already moving on to the point. It's a matter of keeping the rest of Spark out and about. Wave of Gushue jumping right back in, and Architect taking that pick onto Alarm could actually set things in motion for the Spark to reclaim this defensive point. Although IDK and Architect now have fallen through, and that leaves MCD for that sustainability to actually maybe to no avail, with Fusion successfully trying to take this point. They gotta get on the point rather. They want to make sure that MCD will no longer survive, but at least trying to clean that up before making their way right back over to get this payload moving.
I mean, it was so huge, and it really, in my mind, comes down to just that one singular moment where Carpe, they get the kill onto Shy, and then he immediately double dinks Bernard, who's playing up top the high ground behind the point indoors. He double dinks the Zarya, sends him so low, and then Bernard can no longer contest onto the point. He cannot help peel because he's just so damn low. He doesn't have an HP bar, and he knows that if he pushes out, he's just going to get punished instantly. So he has to play scared. And then one by one, they just pick off the rest of the Spark to open up the point. So now it's a massive time bank for the Fusion. They've got this window because Alarm died. He didn't have to use it to take point A. So now he's got this. So if they can gain high ground control, they can absolutely shove them back using this Amp Matrix. I mean, Sound Barrier is well online. They just have all of the tools, and it's going to come down to some incredible counterplay here from the Spark. They need to get this grab online.
Yeah, they need to get the grab online and try to follow up, especially that they're holding on to some of these ultimates themselves. Boucher coming in with the Primal as well as being nano boosted, but look at the way that Fusion actually got out of this situation, not only repositioning themselves, but the Immortality field coming in to actually help out the Fusion going forward, and the Sound Barrier to help them in and make sure that they take care of the front lines of the Spark. Luckily, the Bob does take care of Carpe, but it's not going to be enough when you just have Gushue and Primal making sure that he can contest for as long as possible. Wouldn't try to contest Toby, the Boop God out here, but instead you still need to hold on to some sort of contention, or else this payload is going to be moving to the finish line for free. The Shatter, Seth, it's not looking great here. No one's left in sight. Oh, but this Tracer manages to contest for briefly, making their way over. Both DPS are trying their best, but is it going to be enough right here with Architect falling? It isn't. And the Philadelphia Fusion take the series over the Hangzhou Spark.
It was just huge plays from the Fusion in these last few maps. I mean, Eichenwald, goddamn, I mean, they just get started and they just do not stop. Absolutely destroying them at every twist and turn. A huge time bank to start things. And just a great snowball. Spark, they were never able to stabilize really at all. To try to hold off this defense. Mono just getting aggressive, pushes up on top of the ramparts, drops the Shatter just to get rid of Bernard, get that Zarya out of the fight, ensure that they cannot have any kind of turnaround. It was just beautifully played from everybody here on the side of the Fusion.
Yeah, looking at the way that the Fusion, didn't let that first map get to them. Instead, we're like, all right, we'll give them that one map, but we're going to go for that reverse 3-0 right quick. And they did so. They wasted no time to do so, and they were able to really take full advantage of that momentum that they built in for themselves. And that's what when I talk about momentum, I think about the mentality of a lot of these players that they are able to build up for themselves. And when you have a scary player like Carpe getting enabled by the rest of Fusion, buying in some of that space, as well as having Toby hanging out on Eichenwald on the bridge where you don't want to face off against Toby. I mean, this is just a scary situation, but Fusion took that into their advantage, and they will be progressing through that bracket, now sending Spark over to fixate on what they could do differently when they do meet up against Fusion.
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't like a hopeless situation for the Spark. There's obviously a lot of promise
Yeah.
here. They just have a couple of things that they kind of need to iron out, and then I think that this is going to be, a very competitive team here in the APAC region. But, even though he got his 10,000th career kill in this series, our player of the match is not Carpe. In fact, it is going to be his DPS counterpart. It is going to be Rascal, who will be walking away with the honors today. And, I mean, he had just a wonderful series here, whether it was on the Tracer, the May, Rascal. You can always bet on this guy to help put you across the finish line.
Yeah, I love the retaliation that Rascal came in. Whenever Architect actually wanted to make a play, here came Rascal to make the statement for himself. And I really like the way that Rascal was able to enable Carpe, because whereas Carpe was putting on a lot of pressure from afar, you still had to deal with Rascal on your backlines, not only pressuring out the support lineup and tank lineup from the Spark, but also the fact that, you feel like you're safe and Rascal gets out of that situation. Meanwhile, Carpe finishes you up with a clean headshot. And that's seems to be the bread and butter that I saw a lot coming forward from the Fusion.
Yeah, a great performance from him. I mean, I would love to just see the stick accuracy. How many of these pulse bombs that he threw? How many times did it end up attaching? You can see it's 6. He ends up getting 9 kills as well, 28 final blows and 51 eliminations as the Tracer. I mean, the May just as impactful. We saw him come up with that clutch wall right at the beginning of the attack on Eichenwald to get the pinch on the Shy, which just consistently just started to snowball things out of control for the Spark. It slipped right through their fingers, and Rascal was a very big part of it. So a very well-deserved player of the match from him. And this is somebody who people have been kind of sleeping on a little bit coming into the season, especially in our, we have our APAC caster fantasy draft. I managed to scoop up Rascal, who fell way down the list. Nobody had taken him until we were filling up the bench. But I said, you know what? That man's going to pop off. And I'm very glad that I got him. So he's carrying my fantasy points, and I can't wait to see them update at the end of the week.
Honestly,
it
it was my first time going about that, actually. And I was like, I feel like I'm at a disadvantage. I don't even know how the layup for this goes. And seeing how a lot of these players are popping up, I'm catching on. Get ready, because I'm coming right after you. But, the way that a lot of these players are able to pop off. Looking at Rascal, though, you may have sacked the winner here, Seth, because at the moment between Rascal and looking at Carpe, this DPS lineup is looking really scary if you're taking a look at the Philadelphia Fusion.
Yeah, they absolutely are. But before we close out our show, of course, we will have our hot takes here, our bold takes presented by Pringles. And, we had our ones at the beginning about Chengdu and looking really great. What do you have for me now? What is your hot take after watching the Fusion take down Hangzhou?
Okay. I'm thinking here that Carpe, he's going to hit 50K. He's gonna hit
50,000. Man,
50K,
he's just gonna
50,000. I believe that's my hot take right here. He's gonna pop off and he's gonna hit 50K. Get ready.
Okay, he's just gonna quintuple it in one season after it took 3 years to get 10K. All right.
He's gonna suddenly pop off.
That's definitely a very hot take. I think for me, since we don't have Jaws here, unfortunately, for me, I would say that I think that after what we've seen, I think Fusion versus Chengdu Hunters might be the most exciting series that we could have across the league. I'm not even talking about just in APAC. I think that this might end up being more exciting perhaps than, Outlaws versus Shock, or at least at a very similar level. I think that when those two finally clash, it is going to be an absolute bloodbath.
Yeah, even though Jaws isn't here, he mentioned that earlier on within the series, and that's actually something that I'm going to definitely be looking out for. In the Fusion and Hunters, I mean, the Hunters right now, they're looking like they're running amok here in the APAC region. I don't know who's going to stop them, other than the fact that, again, I have to reiterate, the Valiant took a game map off of them. So, keeping that in mind, though, they were still able to 3-0 the Shanghai Dragons and the NYXL. So, moving forward here, that's going to wrap up the APAC region for the day, Seth.
Yep, that it is. Well, I mean, congratulations on your first day. I mean, you just had a roller coaster ride of a debut here in the Overwatch League, but we would have it no other way. Even when things get scuffy, it's still very fun. But it was a pleasure to jump in there at the end, a pleasure to also, host these little segments and whatnot. But that's it. That's the day in the bag. Of course, you'll be back tomorrow, hopefully with Jaws alongside you, for some more APAC action. So, guys, make sure you tune in for those matches tomorrow. Until then, good night.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Pringles. Stay in the game.
A legend falls. Огонь по готовности.